Director Reynolds.
No money for Glenn.
No, he's not here. All right. Director Michelson's.
President accounted for.
President Michelson.
President, sorry.
And we do have a flag, so you know what? We will salute the flag. All right, please. After me, I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Amen. There we go. Okay.
Hey, Michelson, are you in the sauna or what?
Yeah, I was. So that said, do we have any public comment? I'm not seeing any public on the meeting.
We got Nick. Where's Nick?
Nick Niles. He was here.
Okay, Glenn, better check in with Denise here.
Perfect.
So I'm not hearing any members of the public who wish to maybe speak on something not on the agenda. That said, let's move forward to consent. This was my month to review. I found it to be in order. Anyone care to make a motion or care to discuss or pull any items on the consent?
Should we pull item B and F for the later discussion of the O&M budget? Or is that not necessary? Mary, are you going to describe your recommendation relative to that data set?
Well, certainly, I will talk about our budget and our costs, but if you, if there's something you want to see specifically about our current.
Well, I think it would be helpful for people to understand your recommendation for where we are on the budget for next year, based on what you're projecting will happen in the next year, which really depends on how much money we've been spending and what our sales have looked like this past year relative to other years. And it might be important for the public to understand where we're going based on where we've been and why we're doing what we're doing. And I know that your presentation later sort of starts with some pointers to that data, but you might want to spend some time describing how you arrived at those projections.
Okay. I mean, I do have some slides that I'm going to share as well. So
we met as the finance committee, and Mary went over the approach she took to the new budget, or to revising the last one that we reached, because we delayed 3 months, and I think that's covered in her O&M thing. I don't think that going over what we've done so far is not going to be attended to in that discussion. I don't know, Ken, you would have.
I move that we approve the consent calendar as presented.
I'll second that. Any more discussion? And this doesn't lock out us from discussing the items that Director Larimer wanted to. We can discuss those as they come up in the future. So that said, are we ready for a roll call vote? Please.
Okay. Director Larimer?
Yes.
Vice President Reynolds?
Yes.
Director Coverdale?
Yes.
Director Feldman?
Yes.
President Michelson?
Yes. Thank you. So meetings attended, director comments?
I think I'd like to reserve my comments for when we're discussing the O&M budget.
Okay.
We had a finance committee meeting.
Okay. Bob, did you have something to say, Ed?
No.
So I did have a BOSCA meeting, and Patrick, you can stop me if you like, if you care to, if I start divulging too much. Water situation is fine for this year. Steve Ritchie has no heartburn there. Plenty of water storage. Water bank looks good. However, the bad news is in our closed session, what I can divulge, because I believe it is public information, the Bay Delta plan has really gone sideways. Sierra Club and Metropolitan have both entered the fray. So where there was optimism for a settlement, it's not looking so good right now. So it was too many players, too many well-funded lawyers. This is going to take a long time to play out. And Patrick, I hope I didn't overstep anything from closed session. And that's all I can really say on that. So I'm really sorry to say the state of litigation in California is just going to cost us all. And I'll stop there. Thanks. So moving on to general business. Mary, please.
Well, first of all, I'm going to introduce Rich Stratton, who has joined us from HDR, and he and his team have been working on a basis of design review for Nunes, and he's completed that. So I'm going to turn this over to James first to describe what we are asking in our proposal, but please welcome Rich as well. And
hello, everyone. Welcome.
Questions and working and answering and helping James with the descriptions, etc. So thank you. James, take it away.
Evening, board members. You're familiar with this topic. In February, the board approved the basis of design report through HDR. We've completed that process and cleaned up and tightened the scope and got a better estimate on what the investment will require for Nunez. And just as a reminder to any public that are watching, in 1982, the treatment plant was constructed. It was upgraded, excuse me, in 1982, it was constructed. In 92, it was upgraded as part of the Crystal Springs project. And the filter basins in Clearwell have never been recoated or rehabbed. The SED basin has not been rehabbed, and we only have a singular SED basin. So what we're looking at is moving to design now that they've done their basis of design report and given us some good numbers on what the investment is going to entail. And their proposal that they have delivered to us is for the new SED basin. The treatment plant was originally designed to have an additional SED basin. Not many water treatment plants have a single SED basin. We need to take the SED basin down eventually and do an inspection and replace any worn or needed parts. And we currently can't do that with the layout of the plant. So the SED basin is a very important aspect, and also the filters the coating has failed. We got a little bit of exposed rebar, so we want to get at that before we lose any of the rebar or the structural integrity of the basins. And this will also include a caustic storage tank and some clear well upgrades. The clear well needs a recoating and some of the appurtenances in there to be replaced. HDR has worked really well with our staff. Sean's here. I'm sure he'll vouch too if we want to call on him. And for full design and bid support services, their proposal is $597,560. The estimated expense of the project will be a total of $7 million.
Oh.
And staff's recommending that we move through with design and some of the bid support services that they have proposed. And I'm here for questions. Rich is here for questions. And I just want to say on the district's behalf, HDR has been really easy to work with. They listen, they have great ideas, and have been just very supportive, and they understand our needs. If you have any questions, I don't know, Rich, do you want to add anything, or do you want to wait?
I would just say the new SED basin, we're going to do a cost savings by using plate settler technology. So the existing SED basin is a big open basin, but we've shrunk the size of the new one quite a bit by putting in stainless steel plates, and that's a very proven technology. So we're always looking for things like that to keep the cost down and yet still provide good performance for the plant.
Thank you, Rich.
Directors, anyone have any questions here? I know it's a lot of money, and we've certainly seen it at the facilities level, but others may have questions. Ken, please.
The only part of the proposal that I saw that I was interested in or concerned about is I just find it hard to believe that we have to resurvey that site. I mean, we've done so much work up there over the years in so many different forms, you know, roadways, improvements, all that stuff. We just must have better survey information than to have to go out and get a brand new survey. It's probably only nickels in the overall proposal, but I'm just flabbergasted. We've been working up there for years, and I don't think that the hillsides changed or the topography has changed or the location of the current parts of that puzzle have changed. So I don't really understand that part of the proposal. Seems like we should give them some data that would save us money there. It's probably nickels, but I had a business person one time tell me, you manage the pennies, the dollars follow suit.
Yeah, well, it's really for the new SED basin that we need that hillside. The as-builts aren't necessarily accurate, and I don't know that they really, you know, put a lot of effort into that because there wasn't any structure there. So we have to cut into that hillside, build like a roadway and then a pad, and we want to have accurate information for that. It is, I think it's only like $1,000 or something for the survey. I forget. It's not a whole lot. They don't have to fly it or anything. They'll just come out in a day and take their shots and patrol station and, you know, give us a base map. So it's going to be better in the long run to have accurate information so that when a contractor comes out, we know exactly what the cut and fill is, and, you know, we have everything well documented.
Ken, this is Glenn. One of the things that I would comment on in this is that it isn't always our infrastructure, but it can be property abutments or adjacent neighbors can be the ones who have, since the last survey, built into the encroached in the property line, which obviously would have a big impact and is worthy of knowing. And we're about to spend $7 million on this plant, and so to me, it's of paramount importance that we make sure that we build it on property we own. And I understand that that's obvious in this situation, but boy, I'd sure cheerfully spend $1,000 to be able to check the box off.
Well, I'm not suggesting that we do without survey. I'm suggesting that we have survey on record that would be useful in the process. So that's all I'm suggesting.
So I had a question about access to that location. Is that included in your estimate?
Right. We're going to have to come in from the, I guess, the north side, the west side, and come around the north side to get to that side, to that spot.
So does that mean you're going to have to, is that a included cost or is that an extra cost?
No, it's part of our design and part of the cost that we've given for the BDR. So that's why there's grading over there. There's going to be a retaining wall, and there's going to be, I think it's a gravel road now, but it could be a paved road. Depending on what you guys decide you want to do, but you'll have full access to that new sed basin.
And you said that they're going to do some core drilling there to see what kind of ground is underneath the tank.
Yeah, we'll have a boring, at least I think 2 borings.
Well, I thought I read in the proposal that the cost of access for the drilling would be a separate additional cost.
Right. Yeah, we're actually working on getting another proposal from Cleary, which we should get like any day now. So that price could come down. So whatever reduction, if there is a reduction from Cleary, we'll just adjust our proposal and reduce that cost if it's lower, which it may be.
Jim Durbin, and Mary, I guess the cost of this is provided for in the 2021 budget, correct? It didn't indicate that you have reserve, but there's about a $700K number in the budget for this work. Is that right?
Yes, it's in our draft CIP.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And 2, the timing, the duration. It appears that this finishes in March of next year, this study. Does that seem reasonable in terms of timing? Could it be sooner than that, or is that about what it takes for this kind of work? I'm just asking. It seems like, pretty extensive period of time.
Yeah, well, our design we'll finish up just before Christmas, and then we'll go out to bid right at the first of the year, and so
okay.
that's that extra time into next year is just for the bidding. So I think that's a good schedule because contractors like to bid early in the year, get their work lined up for the year. So we usually get good number of bidders. The later it is in the year, then they're busy. They already got their work, so then you may not get as many bids. So I think it's a good schedule.
Okay, I was trying to understand the duration and how to set that up. Thanks.
Anyone else have any questions?
I just have one more thing. I don't know if anyone has discussed it with Mr. Strato or not, but I guess it was about 10 years ago, a local geotechnical group called BAG, Bay Area Geotechnical Group, was very concerned about the hillside below that water treatment plant and above Highway 92. And so I want to be sure you're aware of that that's historical information, and it may have a bearing on what goes on for you in geotechnical
Yeah,
thinking.
the geotech will research that, and I think, so right now we have our geotech people in there, but often it can be the case that a local geotech can be a little more competitive, and so that's why we want to get the pricing from Cleary. But I think Cleary has worked in that area, in the Half Moon Bay area, so they should be aware of this issue.
Yeah, I hope so. I just wanted you to be aware.
Yeah, thank you. And
I
if
was
it works
concerned
out
about
that
that.
for some reason we stay with our people, I'll let them know. But I have a feeling we're probably going to end up going with Cleary.
Yeah.
I would appreciate you going with Cleary.
Yeah.
Just ginned up more work for themselves, and they have no credibility with me. So that's personal opinion. I very specifically remember that situation. Anyone else? A lot of money here.
I've read through it and I'm good with it.
Yeah, so Glenn and I both looked at it. You know, I can see the need for survey, certainly see the need for geotech. There's going to be a normal, that wall abuts right on the plant. So there's going to be a serious amount of excavation there. So I want the best possible data before anybody moves forward. So this all makes sense to me.
Good.
Okay. Anybody want to give the money away?
Sure. I gotta find I'll read. I can read it, but I gotta find it. I got ahead. Well, I got ahead. All right. I'll make a motion that we authorize the general manager to execute a professional service agreement with HDR Engineering for design, engineering, and bid support services for the Nunez Water Treatment Plant Improvement Project for not to exceed an amount of 597,560
And I will second that.
I'll second it.
Okay, I'll give it to you, Bob. Okay, moved and seconded. If there's no more discussion, this certainly warrants a roll call. I'll tell you, this is some serious money. So Denise, please.
Okay. Director Larimer,
Yes.
Vice President Reynolds,
Yes.
Director Coverdale,
Yes.
Director Feldman,
Yes,
President Michelson.
Yes, thank you very much. Mary, little organization in the office.
Okay.
Item B, thank you.
Okay, so thank you. So this item involves getting your approval for some organizational changes and approval of the salary schedule. And per our legal counsel, we need to get these items approved by the board. The salary schedule is one where we get approved every year. We need this for CalPERS. It's a requirement that we have board approval of the salary schedule. So I'm going to share my screen just to share second. Can everybody see my PowerPoint?
I can.
I can,
Yes.
I can, yeah.
Great. Okay, so what I am recommending is a change to the organization chart. You know, I've been here in my role since late October, and I've spent a lot of time thinking about our resources. And you know, at this point, what I would really like to do is make some adjustments. I would like to eliminate the assistant general manager position as it stands. And instead, I'd like to add an accounting manager position. And I'd like to add a maintenance worker position. And so all these changes, those changes would be budget neutral. So with the accounting manager position, this role would assume all the, you know, the finance functions. The position will serve on our district's management committee, will oversee our enterprise systems and support administrative functions of the district. We need cross-training among our staff, and as you are aware, we have you know, staff who really have an understanding of the historical nature of the district, and we really want to expand who has that knowledge. So So the other position we would like to add as a maintenance worker. I mean, I'm not, I'm not quite sure when we would add the position during the year, but what we're looking at is we are really looking. We have an issue right now with recruiting operators. And, for the last two operators we've recruited, it's been really hard to find somebody who has their licenses. And so a lot of it's training on the job. We try to look for people who have great skills, but it is something where on the job they have to get their licenses. So it takes time before they can go on rotation. Right now we have two operators who aren't on our evening or weekend rotation. So what we really want to do is to get an employee in who's entry level, who learns on the job, who can get the licenses on the job, and then when we have openings, could move into an operator position. We are looking at least a couple of retirements in the next few years with our operators. So we have an aging population. So we feel it's important to get somebody in a role that can be moving up. Also, in terms of this position, we'll assume some lower level tasks that we either often outsource or maybe performed by our current operator staff, which actually takes them off of doing possible other tasks with doing some of these menial tasks. So we're looking at that. And then, there are areas that are expanding. Let's think clear, we've really expanded the backflow program over the years. So James is certified, Dustin's certified. We have Jack who's certified, but on backflow, but it's expanding and requiring a lot more time. And, it was very evident before Joanne left that we were just needing to move more of the backflow responsibilities to the operations staff, more so than in the past. Also, in terms of we're doing things like our asset management program, which I think ultimately will help to help us as we look at capital projects, our maintenance. It should ultimately probably save us money, but it's just there's more work to do. So we're making this recommendation. So in terms of, I know you probably can't read this, but this is in your packet. This is the current organization chart. But what we would be doing is, so we would have, instead of having a assistant general manager, we'll have an accounting manager. We'll have two of the positions, administrative positions, report into that position. And then we'd have a maintenance worker that would report into the distribution supervisor. So that's, those are the positions we're asking for. We're also asking that we put the accounting manager position in the salary schedule. We already had a maintenance worker position in the salary schedule, but we didn't have one on the org chart. And with the salary schedule, we're including a 2.5% COLA, which is per our MOU with the Teamsters. And so, we're asking the board to approve these, changes for us. So, question.
Does Vicki going to report to the accounting manager? I couldn't tell from your org chart. I'm sorry. The org chart, the revised org chart.
Right.
Does Vicki Heath is going to report to the accounting manager?
Correct. Vicki,
okay, I just checked. Yeah, okay. That's, I couldn't figure.
Vicki and then a utility billing specialist too.
Right. Okay. No. Okay. I wanted to mention that on April 2nd, it's a while back, Jim and I attended an HR committee meeting with you, at which you presented all of this information, et cetera, and said you would be preparing to present it to the board going forward. And we at that meeting had pretty well signed up for your proposal. I just want to let the rest of the board know that we felt comfortable that you had made a good presentation and we're doing appropriate work to keep us in good shape going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Ken, did you have something to add?
No, I just had a question. So the customer service level 2, that's a higher position than the customer service level 1? So the numbers go that way?
Right, correct.
And who fills those positions currently?
The customer service level 2, we have 2 people, Sue Turgeon and Vicki Heath. And customer service level 1 is Lisa Solson.
Great, thank you. Thanks.
Well, I have a question. Patrick, why does this require a board approval? It seems to me that this is a responsibility of the manager to decide how to organize the work staff of the district. And I'm not sure why we're doing this. I mean, as a point of information, it seems perfectly reasonable, but why do we actually need to approve it? Is there something?
Because I think it's a salary structure. I think that she's changing the salary structure of the organization and it requires board approval for that, not the org itself.
Can we let Patrick answer?
Yeah, that's part of it, Director Feldman, and also the creation of new positions is a fiscal matter for the board. The filling of the positions is up to the manager, but the actual creation of new positions or different levels of position is a fiscal responsibility of the board. And certainly the adoption of the salary schedule, which is where the compensation is structured, also needs to go to the board as well and be approved by the board. And as your general manager mentioned, that's a CalPERS requirement.
Yeah, and historically, I do recall the board looking at the org chart, but not necessarily the names that fill the org chart. But the org chart is something that we have looked at in the past.
Well, that's my question. I mean, if the law requires us to approve the salary schedule, then I think we should do that. But the organization seems to me to be a prerogative of or ideally would be a prerogative of the manager, because that's what we hire a manager to do, is to decide how to manage. So I'm good with the idea that we should approve the salaries, but I don't see why we're approving the organizational or the structure of the organization, because that's should be a prerogative of the general manager.
Well, again, the creation
Changing a title.
of positions.
Right, there's a new position and we have a new maintenance worker. And so that falls within board approval. It just so happens that people's names come up because we know who's around in there. But it's a new position and a new slot. And I think that requires approval.
Yeah, well, let me say it again. I'm good with all of that. You know, if we have different categories of employment and different salaries for those categories, yeah, I understand that we would have a obligation to be aware of that and to approve it or not, because that's a responsibility that falls on us. But the actual how the organization is structured seems to me not to be something that we should mess with, because it ought to be a prerogative of the general manager if we want that person to truly manage and we're not overlooking, telling that person how to do it.
Okay, duly noted. Mary, back to you.
Okay. So I think at this point, I would like to ask for your approval of the positions and the salary schedule.
So I move we approve Mary's plan for the new positions and the reorganization of the staff.
This is
That's
Glenn.
This
Is Glenn, and I'll second that.
And just for the record, those are the 3 recommendations that are included in the staff report.
I could read it if you want me to, Patrick.
No, I think if As long as Denise has it, I think
I
we're.
have it.
Yeah.
Denise,
so-
are we good? Can
We're
you
good,
read
I
that
have
back?
We assume Denise will copy it as is off of the presentation, the staff
So-
report.
It's quite
That's-
lengthy. I have it though.
That
Thanks,
said,
Denise.
let's proceed to a vote, please.
Director Larimer,
Okay, so I'm getting 2 out of 3, so I have to round up and vote yes.
Vice President Reynolds,
Yes.
Director Coverdale,
Yes.
Director Feldman,
Yes,
President Michelson.
Yes, thank you.
Hey, Chris, can I make a quick comment?
No,
Okay, I will. Hey, Mary, thanks. I'm so glad
Thank you.
you come back with the reorganization of the staff. I've been really anxiously awaiting it. I think you're great, and I want to compliment you for the effort. So thank you
awesome.
very much.
Thanks. Thank you. Okay, now we get to the,
Chris, you're fading.
Oh.
I see the top of your forehead. There you go.
I know, I don't want to see how lounged down, my lounge position. Why sit when you can lay down?
I guess.
So that said, I believe we will be touching on concerns that were raised in our consent calendar. So item D, please, or C, please.
Okay.
Mary.
Okay, I'm going back to my PowerPoint. Can everybody see my PowerPoint?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so at a number of board meetings previously, our February 11th and March 10th meetings, we discussed operations and maintenance budget. In May, I actually brought forward a new budget that was quite different than the budget that we presented in February. This month, we do need to approve a operations and maintenance budget because we're going into a new fiscal year. So, I went back to the drawing board a little bit from the May meeting, and I think I'm a little bit more optimistic than I was in May. And so I'm still, we're still down from what we originally presented in February. We've had a number of things happen. I will say, doing, forecasting is a bit of a crystal ball, and we're not sure what's going to happen with some of these issues. I will say particularly with COVID, but basically in looking at the budget, there are 3 things that are really impacting our budget. And so, the first being that, we lost a key agricultural customer this year. We've been monitoring the water use in the past few months. Basically the customer had been using water up through, I'll say the January, February timeframe, and now it's our understanding that the customer now has tenants, and so we're seeing water use in the range of 35 to 40% of what we were seeing in the prior year. So, that value, they used around, 28 to 30 million gallons a year. So, we're seeing, that it's going to, it's going to impact us over the next year. The other point, and, we really, don't have a full understanding of what the shelter in place, with COVID has taken. I'm sorry. But then we really only have 2 months worth of data. So, we were kind of, eyeing some of the commercial and visitor serving revenues, and understand these are, they're actually pretty small numbers when you look at, comparing how much is used in this sector, but the numbers add up. And so it is a question of what we're going to see. in these sectors. It's not the major part of our revenue, but certainly we could see, if we're seeing a 3 to 4 million gallon drop off in these categories, it does impact our bottom line. The other issue is really the bigger issue, I think, to our bottom line right now is our lack of rainfall on our local watershed. We are, pretty much not, shut down from Denniston. If we might be able to squeeze out a little bit more water, but even as of this month, given the lack of rainfall this, winter and spring, we're just not going to have access to our local sources. So, it does impact us. The other piece is that we're going to be limited, from a San Francisco source, we're limited on what we can get out of Pilicetus Reservoir because it's the same issue. They're impacted, that watershed is being impacted the same way as Denniston. It's kind of similar or the same, being very adjacent to each other, but it's a situation where we're just, we're going to be limited on what we can take over the fall. We've been working with SFPUC on demand forecasts. So what we're trying to do is to bank water, or to make sure that we're able to get water out of Pilicetus Reservoir in the September-October timeframe when we could have PSPS events. Anyway, so one of the things I did want to share with you what I was looking at, for revenue. And again, this is a crystal ball, I will say. So I kind of, grouped of, what we went and looked at, by month of for revenue. In some of these, sectors where, I'm showing us, going down by, roughly, by 25% in these, in these visitor serving and commercial categories. I have actually our residential unit usage has ticked upward. So I've increased that. We have this agricultural line that, I've just spoken about that we're gonna, we have a hit with. So, excuse me. So, what we're looking at, what I have right now, and it's conservative, I believe, but it's I'm estimating around 580 million gallons next year. In 2019, we were right around the 599, 600 mark. When we were looking at the budget back in February, March, and going back and forth, even with doing our rate study, we used 590. So this is 10 million gallons down from that. We will likely end the year, I would say somewhere between 605 and 610 for it, but it will, it depends. I mean, we have had kind of a net uptick right now with really warm weather. So but it is a question of how we move forward. So this is where I'm standing. I hope it's it's conservative, and but it is a it's something with that will be impacted on revenue. So this you've seen this slide before, but this is actually with bringing in 580 million gallons in revenue. With our with the revenue will be down from what we had in the as our 1920 approved budget around 598 million gallons. Basically, we're looking at in terms of our operating expenses. Our big hit is really with having to go out and buy SFPUC water. So we've had between buying SFPUC water, we're also having a bigger chunk we have to pay for our allocation of our BOSCA surcharge, which is between those items, that gets us to around 400,000 down, or where we're looking at our operating expenses, and then we just, we have a combination of other things. I did have I have some, a further breakdown. One of the things right now, we're not really going to see a big bump in our personnel related expenses, which is, even though, and this includes all our people and and our COLA, but we've actually had two things. The CalPERS, there's a charge for which is our unfunded liability. Their charge has gone down significantly. The other piece with that is that we're finding, we've had some turnover with our staff and some retirements with our staff. So we're finding we're having more people be on the PEPRA plan these days. So our pension costs are going down. We do have, I did put in 50,000 for bad debt. We don't know. I will say the good news is we're actually seeing people paying their bills, which is really fantastic. We have been concerned with the governor's order that, since we're not shutting off customers, that we may have issues with people paying their bills. So, I think that we're going to see some increase in our in potential bad debt, but right now I'm more optimistic on that front. I guess, before talking about CIP, maybe I'll stop sharing for a second. Do you have questions for me?
Questions? No questions?
The finance committee met, Ken and I went over this in some detail with Mary and asked her to explain the numbers, and I think that we were comfortable with the assumptions she's made and the analysis done, and also the opportunity to agree that this can be used as the O&M budget for the next step in our analysis by Raf Tellis, so that he can begin the process of doing another analysis in terms of rate structure and increases, et cetera. And we need to do that, I think, tonight in order to have that happen in time for the budget process, which would result in an October increase if we so desire to do as we move forward. Do you agree, Ken? I agree with it.
Yeah, I feel like we spend I don't know the meeting was about 2 hours. I think we poured through the numbers carefully. My question for Mary was, do you think that you're being conservative, or are you being, sort of optimistic in the budgeting? She said that she was sharpening her pencil, which I think is the right approach right now. And, when we were talking about this a month or two ago, it was over $1 million. So I really think the numbers are good. We may get some breaks. I think people are going to pay their bills. I think most people want to pay their bills. I do see the threat of lower water use, but it's a very dry period. The soil's very dry. We're supposed to wash our hands now every 5 minutes for 20 seconds. And so I think water use, especially on a residential level, is going to go up. I think as we open up the coast, I don't know if any of you were out on the weekend. The place looks like a mob scene. It's unbelievable. So I think visitor serving is going to be up. I think water sales, the visitor serving businesses is going to go way up. People want to get out. They want to be doing what they like to do on the coast. So I think that using these numbers is conservative. And if we find we do better, it's really easy. It means we can be a little more generous or liberal in how the rate increases might go going forward. And, but I would really urge the board to look at this carefully and approve it tonight so we can go to the next step. I think if we can get Raf Tellis to come give us the infill, next month, then we can really feel secure about what our rate increase might be. One thing we talked about was money is pretty cheap right now. Denise was commenting about her home mortgage. It went down half a point or something. Money's cheap. I think people are going to want to get back to work. So if we really get anxious about wanting to push the CIP faster, we've got plenty of borrowing capability, but I would love to hear that from Raf Tellis, because he told us that he wasn't really excited about us borrowing more money. I don't know why, but we can talk to him about that. We have plenty of assets, and I think our credit is excellent. So I feel good about the budget, and I didn't really see any weakness. I, for one, would love when somebody has a lot of spare time on their hands, I would just like to see what it would cost us on an annual basis if all we did was buy water from Crystal Springs, pump it over the hill and run it through the Nunes treatment plant, how that would change our budgeting. How much would that cost be compared to all these multiple sources and all this other water treatment? Not that we would want to do that, but I think that up to our allocation, it would be a possibility, and the number might be very interesting. So that's my comment.
Thank you. Yeah, that would be an interesting number to see, because I know certainly operating 2 water treatment plants is very, very expensive. And certainly we would, although we just put a lot of money into Denniston, but that's the unfortunate side. But yeah, would it be an interesting number to see? I wouldn't mind seeing that myself. That said, yes, I would like to see the rate consultant come back, and it's sounding like there is an interest to proceed in October, having stayed our rate increase for 3 months. It may be time to consider October. So I would like to see Raf Tellis come back. That's kind of the feeling I'm getting from my other board members. So thank you for that. Okay.
Oh, I'd like to make a comment too about this.
Please.
So I also spent a lot of time looking at the sales and the likelihood, the impact of the weather, and the fact that we're going to be probably buying a lot more water this year than we did next year than we did this year from the SFPUC, which is really the major component of increasing our costs. I mean, this year we had a remarkable amount of water coming out of the Denniston facility, but now the weather's sort of changed that. So we're kind of having to use more water out of the SFPUC. So I see that as the major factor going ahead. The next big factor on that list is what's happening at Bay City. And what was surprising when you look at the sales, we haven't seen much impact of that yet. I mean, we've seen a little bit, but nothing as big as it might be. I was surprised when I looked at all the other numbers and all the other sales. We've actually, the last 3 months, we've increased residential sales, every single one, relative to the yearly average as a fraction of our water sales, which is, I guess, because people are home washing their hands or whatever they're doing at home.
Doing something.
And I think Mary's concerned that, at least that she expressed to me, that that the warm weather may encourage people to water their lawn more, is going to mean we're going to end up buying more water off of the SFPUC. But the COVID impact is surprisingly small. I just don't see it anywhere in the numbers. It's amazing. I've tried to analyze it a gazillion different ways, and there are definitely reductions in sales in restaurants and hotels and recreation, But if you average that over March, April, and May, which are the 3 months that we've been in this sort of isolation, and thinking that probably in the future the isolation is going to go through periods of waxing and waning, so we don't know what it's going to look more like March or more like May in the future. It's probably going to be a mixture of both. I think we're in pretty good shape, and I completely agree with Ken that we're in amazingly good shape. I have to say, this district has done a fantastic job of managing the store. We're going to weather this storm, I think, amazingly well. I would hope that next month, when we consider the CIP budget, we seriously look at the virtue of borrowing to pay for some of that technology that we're going to be improving. For example, those basins we put at Nunes, they're going to last 50 years. I'm not going to last 50 years. There's a lot of people in this community who are like me, and I'm willing to pay my fair share, but I don't want to pay all of it because I won't be here all that 50 years, and those tanks will be. So and that's another element of the really excellent management of this district. We're in a great shape to borrow money, and maybe the interest rates are going to go down. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I kind of like the crystal ball that says it's going to go down, but if you look at my portfolio, you wouldn't trust me.
This is Glenn. My feeling is that we have a budget, we have a reserve specifically for a time like this, and I think it's too short for us to make any radical changes, and we should stay the course longer at doing what we're doing, which is doing very well, and watch what's going on and learn before we react. So I'd be in favor of approving. Should I make a motion to approve the fiscal
Please
budget?
do. Please
Okay.
do.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2020-2021 operations and maintenance budget as shown in Exhibit A.
And I'll second it.
Thank you. And yes, I am really encouraged, and I'm really encouraged to see that our customers are paying. And I tell you, just in the past 2 months, things went from, somewhat on the pessimistic side to optimistic. So I'm really, really, really pleased to see how positive we're looking right now, and a tribute to everyone involved, and certainly pat on the back all around. So thank you very much. That said, proceed. We need to vote on this.
Did someone second it?
I
Yeah,
second.
Jim.
Oh,
Jim
good.
Yeah,
seconded.
it was second.
Sorry, Director Larimer. Director Larimer,
Yes.
Vice President Reynolds,
Yes.
Director Coverdale,
Yes.
Director Feldman,
Yes.
President Michelson.
Yes, thank you. And yeah, thanks, Glenn, for including, asking for the map to be included, I guess, in for the next item for our newly formed district elections. Mary, please.
Okay, I'm gonna. Okay, so we have a resolution on the table. This is standard what we do every few years when we have an election. But we have to have you approve a resolution to call for our election for November 3rd. So in this election, we have 3 zones that are up for election. So Zone 1, with Director Reynolds occupies. Zone 3, where Director Coverdale and Director Larimer live, and then our Zone 4, which is vacant. So basically with this resolution, it not only requests the San Mateo County to run the election for us, we provide all the details that San Mateo requires from us in terms of the map and various things. In terms of what kind of decisions we're making with this resolution, we're saying that we're going to provide for a candidate statement, and we have a choice of either going with 200 words or 400 words. And so in the past, we've used 200. So that's what's in here in terms of the resolution. And also that the costs of filing are to be borne by the candidate as well. So do you have any questions?
No,
I like the 200 word, and sounds like this is the way it's always been. Anyone else have any comments?
yeah, I was just gonna say, how do we come up with 200 words? Is it 200 or 300 or 400?
Always
No,
been
it's
200,
Okay,
unless you want to write a dissertation.
Hey, I'm at an disadvantage. I went to Half Bay High School, so I want it as low as possible.
ouch.
Hey, that's an advantage, President Michelson, not a disadvantage, it's an advantage as a
Yeah.
fellow graduate of Half Moon Bay High School.
We're surrounded.
Okay, and we are going to be mailing in our votes, much to the consternation of some. So this shouldn't be very expensive, should it?
I'm not so sure about that.
30,000 bucks.
Yeah, so we'll see the cost. I know that the city of Half Moon Bay, they were given a cost of $45,000. So we'll see what San Mateo will come up with for us. I'm hoping it's much lower.
Well, the unintended consequences of districting.
Eventually, there are a lot of ballots
Zoning.
that have to be made up. I will say that you need to file your applications for candidacy by July 13th, and you have till August 7th. So it's a very short window.
Okay, thank you. We'll look forward to that.
So
And
I
I guess-
move we approve resolution 2020-02, calling for and giving notice of a regular district election to be held on Tuesday, November 3rd, and requesting the county elections department to conduct the election.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. Let's proceed to a vote, please.
Director Larimere,
Yes.
Vice President Reynolds,
Yes.
Director Coverdale,
Aye.
Director Feldman,
Yes,
President Michelson.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, Jim's letter. Thank you, Jim, for penning that. I think we all agree wholeheartedly. Whether anyone bothers to read it shall be seen, yet to be determined. But thoughts from fellow board members?
Well, you can't expect the the wheel to get oiled if you don't squeak. So let's.
Yeah, no, I couldn't
Great.
agree more. Anyone
no,
else?
I think it, go for it.
I really appreciate your authoring the letter. I think it's important that we send it out, and I hope that there's action taken. Stranger things have happened.
Yeah, okay. Do we need a roll call for this, or we just say do it?
If the board wants to send this letter as the board should take action. And because everything's virtual, everything has to be by roll call vote. Any board action has to be by roll call.
Okay, although that's a good clarification. Okay. Thank you. So Denise, you're on again. Or do we have a motion yet?
Oh,
Yeah.
I move that we
I have a
approve
question.
a letter to be sent to the state and federal legislators to consider streamlining the approval process when multiple government agencies are required to approve a project.
Second?
Okay.
Okay, then Mary had a comment quick.
I think the board would like to have this
Everybody
done,
wants
but
to
that
say something.
the board will like to have this done but that the letter, I think, is planned to come from the general manager from staff, if I understand.
Yeah, Mary,
That's
did you want?
that's my question.
Yeah, well,
Okay,
no,
I
of
just
course.
wanna be
Oh,
sure we're all clear.
absolutely. This is signed by the GM.
Right, one point, to send it out and to receive response, that'd be much better now.
And I would approve the modification to the motion.
Okay. Good to proceed
amendment.
with the vote? Okay, I got the nod from Patrick, so Denise, please.
Director Larmer,
Yes.
Vice President Reynolds,
Yes.
Director Coverdale,
Aye.
Director Feldman,
Yes,
President Michelson.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. James, looks like you are now up.
All right. So I will be brief. It's been a long meeting. We had some meter leaks on the meter side of a few meters that got called in that we addressed. We did our annual standby generator load bank testing and service. Short of a couple of battery replacements, the generators are all looking good, so we're ready for the fall PSPS events. Staff installed some safety railing adjacent to EG3 tank and generator and painted the genset. Painted the bumper on the dump truck. Repaired some isolation valves at the Pillar Cedos well field. Basically, just installed risers so we had access to the valves, to clarify. And then the treatment staff and replaced the caustic line and new chase water lines at Nunez. We used to blend caustic and chase water right at the pumps, and we had all kinds of issues with calcification of the lines. Treatment staff came up with this idea to inject the two waters at the injection point. I think it's a great improvement. They did it in-house. Did a real nice, clean job there. And then staff also revised the O&M manuals for Denniston and the Nunez water treatment plants per DDW's request, and we've submitted those. So it's been a very productive month. May sources were Denniston Reservoir, the wells, and Crystal Springs. We did turn off Denniston last Friday due to lack of water and working cooperatively with Dave Leah. So we're on Crystal Springs now. There's some water in Pillar Cedos, as Mary mentioned, but we want to kind of bank that for the fall for the PSPS events, so we're not going on and off. The SFPUC is installing a second siphon to deliver some water so that we can meet some better flows there. They're working on, they should have that in the next month or so. The roof repairs and replacement at Main Street is complete, short of a couple of very minor punch list items. Denniston Tank Road and Culvert replacement. The notice to proceed went out today. There was a little delay with the bonding company for Half Moon Bay paving and grading due to the COVID situation, but that's moving along. Denniston generator project, notice to proceed has been issued. Submittals are starting to come in, so we're making some traction there. Garcia Avenue emergency main replacement. We're halfway down the street. We got a couple more weeks and we should be out of there. That's going well. TJC tank evaluation for the Carter Hill tanks has been submitted. EKI is doing some modeling and we'll be sharing the results with the facilities committee shortly. And CityWorks and Esri, the new server set up. The GIS software has been installed. I talked to the consultant about the schedule today. A little bit of delay also on his end due to COVID and some of his support staff, but that's moving along. Bless you. EKI is nearing completion on the Grandview and the Pine Willow Oak pipelines replacement work, and we're also going to be reactivating the Highway 1 crossing project and doing some potholing so that we're not going to conflict with the city of Half Moon Bay's Highway 1 North project. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer.
Thank you. Any directors have any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And looks like Kathleen, you may have something this month.
Yes, I do. This staff report should look very familiar to everyone. It's basically one I present every year. So this, as you know, the district is a partner of WaterSense EPA, and basically the WaterSense label on plumbing fixtures and irrigation products tells you that it's 20% more efficient than other available products and meets specific performance standards. So WaterSense is similar to Energy Star in that it helps consumers choose a more efficient product. And for the district's participation in the WaterSense program, it is receiving a certificate of appreciation. And if you would like to find out more about WaterSense, you can go to the district's website under the water use efficiency page, and we have more information there about WaterSense products.
Thank you. Anything else?
That's it.
Oh, well, that was short and sweet, and looks like everyone may have the rest of the evening off. Any agenda items for next month?
Yeah,
Jim, do you have one?
yeah, I'd
Something?
like to suggest that we consider making Zoom a permanent part of our meetings. It would probably require adding some technology in the boardroom at the office, but I think it's really interesting that these Zoom meetings, anybody in the public can they don't have to come to the office. They can just do it from home. And additionally, I noticed that Pacific Coast TV has been viewing this. They've obviously made a record of it. This will probably appear on YouTube tomorrow, or even
Oh no.
you know, so I think it's a great idea. This really makes it easy for anybody to participate in these meetings, and that's good. That makes government more transparent. And I'd also like to add, and this isn't an agenda item, I watched one of our sister agencies make their last meeting this month, and comparing this meeting to that meeting, I am very glad that I'm a member of this board and not that. So
I wouldn't wish that fate on anybody. You know, certainly this is allowing much more public participation at, like, you know, city councils, planning commissions. This is really a great format, and it certainly is allowing for more public participation. But based on little or no public participation here, I think we're doing a great job, because even though people now have the opportunity to Zoom in, they're still choosing not to. So we must be doing something right. That said, I think we are on to something permanent here. Ken, please.
Yeah, I just have a question. I know that the Facilities Committee met on the CIP. Will we be discussing the CIP in detail at our next board meeting in July?
No, we're going to keep that secret.
Okay, but it'll be an agenda item?
Yeah, I would like to, yes, I would like to have a facilities meeting this month just to finalize some things as well.
Yeah, so things are evolving, and absolutely, yeah, we will be sharing. That'll be an agenda item for next month.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, numbers are coming in. We certainly get having given out the contract tonight. That certainly is moving forward. So absolutely.
can I,
Sounds good.
on that, I would like, if it's possible, you know, we have these items on our agenda for next month, and this will be one of them, and that'll be the most important one on the agenda. And usually we don't get the items as a complete total, the whole meeting, until Friday. But that's one that I would like to have more time to actually look at it and try to understand it. And so if it's possible to just send around to the board members before you post it on publicly on Friday, that item and that recommendation, you know, maybe do it on earlier in the week, earlier the better. It would give those of us who are not part of the facilities committee a chance to try to look at it in more detail and try to understand it. And one of the wonderful things about this board relative to other boards is everybody on this board pays attention to what's in those packages. And when you watch these meetings and you know that the directors haven't bothered to do their homework, it's kind of pointless. But that doesn't happen here. So I want to congratulate all of my fellow board members for doing their job, because that's amazingly rare.
So I for myself, or for one, will make myself available for facilities meeting earlier rather than later, so we can get the relevant information out to the others.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Hey, Chris, I hope you feel better soon. I don't know what's going on. Chris, he's not, doesn't have a cold, do you, or anything?
No,
You
I
don't
just
have the
feel,
virus,
He's,
do you?
he's
No,
laying
I'm-
down in the sauna.
I
no,
love
no.
it. I hope you're
I'm,
okay.
I,
I was
you
just
know, I'm
concerned.
loving this Zoom thing. I get to do this
Oh,
from.
okay,
from
whatever
this-
works.
It's gonna look good
Oh,
on
God.
YouTube tomorrow.
I
Yeah.
get
Hey, look, the president's in
EMR
bed.
out there pretty quick is what I'll do. I'll call 911 right away. Take care.
Thank you all.
Take care.
Okay, 8:15, good job. Thank you. Till next time. Thanks. Okay, good night. Bye-bye.
Yeah, you